Coming up on Marriage Today with Jimmy and Karen.
Dysfunctional families don't talk. It's one of the hallmarks of dysfunction. There's an elephant in the room and we can't talk about it. Functional families talk. We have an ethic in our home, and that is we speak truth.
It always should take place. And you and I, we work on this, is, to say, I'm so sorry that's how it made you feel, but let me give you my perspective.
Exactly.
And, so we just talk honestly all the time.
Great marriages have anger. Karen and I get angry at each other. That's not the issue. That's just the way it is. But we know how to get it out. Early in our relationship, when we almost divorced, we had aged anger in our marriage that was there for years. And because of that, we couldn't talk about many things. We fought all the time. We had a cycle that we would go for a month or two and then have a huge blow up and then make up and go for another month or two. And by the time that the Lord began to heal our relationship, we were numb. We had fought so much. That's a dangerous way to live in a marriage. And so a great marriage has anger, but you don't have to deal with it. So unresolved anger causes health problems, severe health problems. University of Michigan studied people in bad marriages. They have a 35% higher incidence of disease and live an average of 4 years less. When you have chronic anger in your marriage that you don't deal with or can't deal with, it literally causes you to live a shorter life. And it says here, 4 years less. Secondly, emotional problems, depression and anxiety. The clinical definition of depression is anger turned inward. The highest consumer of our emotions is anger, and we're limited in our emotions. See, if we all went outside and ran, we would all, wear out at some point, because we understand our physical energy is limited, but so is your emotional energy. Depression is when your emotions can't go any further, and you've got anger in there, you've got anxiety in there, and your emotions are on a treadmill, and you wake up the next morning and you're just flat. You just don't have any emotions. After winning the Olympics, athletes get depressed. It's because there's such a sense of jubilation in what they've done that they emotionally exhaust themselves, and then it takes them time to recover. This is Ephesians 4, two texts in Ephesians 4. First of all, verses 26 and 27, be angry and do not sin. Do not let the sun go down in your wrath, nor give place to the devil. The other text begins in verse 31. Let all bitterness, wrath, anger, clamor, and evil speaking be put away from you with all malice. Be kind to one another, tender-hearted, forgiving one another, just as God in Christ forgave you. And so that's the Apostle Paul in Ephesians 4 telling us about anger and all the ramifications of anger. Number one, of dealing with anger is don't deny your anger, admit your anger. When you bottle up anger, there are intimidators and internalizers. Intimidators, you always know they're angry because they're always angry. And they're teapot whistles real quick. And so, this is the way I was, is that they're intimidators. They're angry and they want you to fear their anger. This is the way that I was. This is control. Part of control is I want to train you that when you cross me, you're going to pay a price. You're never going to have intimacy in that environment. That's why we didn't have intimacy. So I was an intimidator. I was always going off. I was very emotive. I was verbally abusive. When Karen made me mad, I'd just say whatever I wanted to say. Devastated our relationship. But then there are internalizers, and Karen was an internalizer. And so she wouldn't talk about her feelings. She would just kind of bottle up her emotions. Really was one of the reasons that I got so frustrated. I knew there was something wrong, but she just wouldn't talk about it. But every couple of months, she would just explode, and it would all come out that way. So we were both extremely unhealthy. I was doing a seminar in Ohio, and there was a couple that came up to talk to me, and they were telling about their friend, and their friend just left her husband. And they've been married for 10 years, and their husband came to them and said, she never complained one time. She never one time told me anything was wrong. And she said, and then she left me and left a note telling me how miserable she was and all the things that she felt and thought. She had internalized anger toward him for 10 years, never told him, and was all over with. She divorced and just left him. Okay, that's kind of one of the ultimate things the devil wants for us, is for anger to destroy our love, our outlook on life, our optimism, and then for us to become hopeless in a relationship. Don't deny your anger, and there's a couple of very important things here. And first is, don't feel guilty about your anger. Let me tell you some of the reasons that we get angry. Sometimes we get angry for good reasons. Sometimes we don't get angry for good reasons. But one reason for anger is legitimate violation. You crossed a boundary. You did something that you shouldn't have done, so I'm angry. I can get angry because of ignorance or misunderstanding. Karen is a normal woman, but when we first got married, I just thought she was weird. I thought there's something, she's defective because she's not like me. And in my ignorance of females, in the way that God calls females, have you ever tried to put your children's toys together? Okay, that makes me angry, because whoever writes those instructions is of the devil. And so sometimes just ignorance, you get frustrated and you get angry or whatever. Immaturity. Sometimes I get angry because I'm just immature. I'm just, kind of being a brat. Sometimes it's unrealistic expectations. I had an expectation that it would be easier. I had an expectation that you would change. I had an expectation that didn't come true. I don't know why, I'm angry all the times, and sometimes my anger is illegitimate, but it's still there. Again, my feelings may not be right, but they're real. They're my feelings. I'm not going to feel guilty because I feel angry. Okay. The second is to cultivate an atmosphere of honesty within your relationship. Your spouse has to know they can share anything without paying a price. Emotionally, regular, everyday stuff. See, when we get people in counseling, and people will come in counseling and they'll say this and this and this and this, and we'll say, have you told your spouse that? No, they go ballistic. And what that means is the atmosphere in our home is, I'm not free to share because they've trained me that I'm going to pay a price. So I've done it before. I paid a price. I don't feel free. Let me tell you about two stores that one I hate, one I love. There's a store that I shop at that I love. And it's a big box store, and they just take anything back. They're the most fantastic people on earth about taking stuff back. So I bought one of those leaf blowers one day from the store, and I took it home and I used it for a couple of years, and it broke, and it was out of warranty. I knew it was out of warranty, and so I took it back to the store and I put it up on the counter. A little gal was behind the counter there, real sweet, happy person, and I put the leaf blower up there and I said, honey, I want to get this fixed, if you would. It's out of warranty, but if y'all would go ahead and fix it. And she looked at it and said, you bought it here? And I said, yeah, I bought it here a couple of years ago. It's out of warranty, if you wouldn't mind getting it fixed. She said, why don't you just go get another one? I said, I don't want to buy another one. I said, just go ahead and fix it for me if you would. She said, go get another one. We're going to give it to you. So I go over and get me a leaf blower, a better one than I had the first time. Go get a better one. Come put it up on the counter. She scans it and said, thank you. And I thought, I love this store. I absolutely love the store because they have a customer relations counter, and it's just such a wonderful place to go. And I feel safe buying something because they'll take it back. If I don't have my receipt, they'll take it back. If it's all beat up, they'll take it back. I just feel great about that store. Well, there's another store I don't like, and someone gave me a shirt. It was a fitted shirt. I mean, I looked at the size on the neck, and it was my size. And so I took it out of the box, and Karen pressed it for me, and I was going to wear it. It hadn't been washed or anything, but it was an Italian cut, and I don't have an Italian body. So I took the shirt to the store where it was purchased from, walked up to the counter, and I put the shirt there on the counter, and I said, hey, I'd like to just exchange this if I could. It doesn't fit. There was a guy behind the counter, real kind of a snobby guy, and he said, the shirt's been worn. We don't take back used merchandise. I said, it hadn't been worn. I said, I got it as a gift. My wife pressed it, hadn't been washed or anything. I said, put it on, took it off. I would just like to exchange it if I could for another shirt. And he said, the shirt's been worn. I said, no, it hadn't been worn. I said, I want to exchange it for another shirt. So he went and got his manager. So the manager came over, never looked at me, never made eye contact with me. The manager came over, and he said to the manager, when the manager walked up, this man wants a new shirt, but it's been worn. And so I'm just thinking, this is unbelievable. So the manager picks the shirt up and looks at it. holds it up into the light, and then starts sniffing the armpits. And he sniffs both armpits several times like this, and I'm thinking, so, you know, what a wonderful experience this is. He never looks at me, throws the shirt down and said, give him another one, and walks off. And I thought, I will never come back in this store again the rest of my life, because this is what your customer relations counter is like. See, in marriage, you have a customer relations counter, and whether you realize it or not. And your customer relations counter is, hey, what do you need? I'm going to give you a new one. I want to be your department store of love. And if I'm doing anything, if I'm saying anything that you don't like, I want you to be able to come and complain and to have a wonderful experience for our marriage's sake. But my customer relations counter when Karen and I got married was like this. She would come and complain to me, and it's like, what's your problem? What's wrong with you? There's no problem with me. See, I was so defensive. See, the 4 major predictors of divorce. Number 1 is criticism, is an atmosphere of negativity. Number 2 is defensiveness. Not allowing your spouse the right to complain. And see, when I'm defensive, I'm not just not allowing you to complain, I'm also saying you're the problem. The reason that I'm not going to let you complain is if you would just get your act together, everything would be okay. Number 3 is contempt. Contempt means aged anger. Not anger, it's long-term anger. The longer that you're angry, the more you become contemptuous at that thing that made you angry. And number 4, stonewalling. And stonewalling means don't talk to me. This is when communication totally shuts down. Do not talk to me about the children. Do not talk to me about money. Don't talk to me about my behavior. Don't talk to me about this. And everything just shuts down. And so to keep the communication lines open, we need to be able to say to each other, honey, complain. I may not agree. We may have to talk things out, but I'm not going to throw a fit. I'm not going to start yelling at you. I'm not going to start insulting you. Dysfunctional families don't talk. It's one of the hallmarks of dysfunction. There's an elephant in the room, and we can't talk about it. Functional families talk. Well, I hope you enjoyed that. You know, this Return to Intimacy series is we're talking about the things that we need to do and not to do to be able to experience intimacy in our marriage. You know, intimacy is the prize of marriage. It's why we get married, is we want to have closeness. But if we're not careful, things like fear and dominance and anger and those types of things come into the relationship, just as well as the fact that sometimes we just don't know, how to be intimate with another person. So this series, what you saw today is just a small part of the entire series that's called Return to Intimacy, talking about many different issues. And right now, for your gift of any amount, we want to get you the 4-part CD series, Return to Intimacy, that talks about anger, dominance, fear, the secrets of intimacy, all of those things that are so important to be able to have the marriage of your dreams. For your gift of any amount, but I want to encourage you to be generous, because marriage today is a mission and a ministry. Hopefully today we've ministered to you and to your family, but we're also a mission. We go all over America and the world ministering to people in this vital area of marriage. Also right now, for your gift of $90 or more, we want to get you the entire 4-part DVD series along with our 1 devotional book. You can watch this by yourself as a couple. You can watch it maybe as a small group or something like that. But also our 1 devotional book is a fantastic way just to deepen your marriage. We want to get you these resources. Here's how you can get them.
Support marriage today with your best gift and receive the series Return to Intimacy. In this series, you will discover how to keep intimacy thriving and growing, why fear causes us to react, and practical steps to resolving anger, conflict, and dominance.
When you devalue and reject the thoughts of your spouse, intimacy is out the window.
For your gift of any amount to support Marriage Today, you'll receive the entire Return to Intimacy series on CD. For your gift of $90 or more, you'll receive the series on DVD. We'll also include the one devotional book filled with 52 marriage-building devotions as a free bonus to the DVD teaching series.
The word intimacy means inner closeness. That's what it means. It means close on the inside.
Recapture closeness in your marriage like you've never experienced before. Whatever your situation, you can return to intimacy.
Well, this program today is on resolving anger, disarming destructive anger. It comes from the series, Return to Intimacy. Intimacy, you're just not going to have intimacy and a lot of anger at the same time. Karen, everybody's got anger. Everyone gets angry. That doesn't make you less of a person. If you get angry, God gets angry. And the difference between a good marriage and a not so good marriage is a good marriage has anger, but you can get it out. You process it. In a bad marriage, you're collecting it. Your marriage is just holding in anger that you don't know how to process. Now it's an intimacy killer. That anger will kill the garden of your love. It doesn't mean you can't get it back, because we did. When people say they're out of love, a lot of times it's just there's so much anger in there, they have no positive feelings left. So back when we first got married, Karen, you had anger. Okay, it was one of the things, and you're much better than me. I mean, you were always much better than me. But probably the biggest issue you had in our marriage was anger. Okay, I had big time anger. Okay, so when we would get frustrated with one another, you would bottle it up. Okay, and I wouldn't know anything was wrong until it was really wrong. But I was always angry. I was just kind of walking around angry. So talk about in the early days of our marriage and giving your spouse the right to complain. When I complained, I didn't do it well, but just talk about those early days in the anger.
Well, you'll say this, you didn't complain. You prosecuted me.
Absolutely.
So it was like, and I was too naive to know how to deal with, being, prosecuted. So, but let me back up just for a second, because I think it's really important to say that we live in a society today that it's almost like we've given society the right to be angry. It's like we tell people it's okay. What helped us is back then, people weren't allowed to be angry like they are today. And so there was more of a check and balance of, you really need to deal with this. And so I think, that's another perspective I'm having today is just how many people are so angry. I mean, I've never seen such violence in the home.
They're not processing it.
No. Yeah. And so like for us, we didn't have that, but we still had these same things that brought up those emotions. It's just that we were taught and we were told, and we read in the Bible where, yes, you can be angry, but don't take it all the way out there. Have self-control. Have love and respect for the people that you're around, where you don't do damage and you don't hurt other people, to get your way. And I know for you, what you would do, because I can remember you saying this to me when we were first married, you would get so mad and you just walk away. And I was like, wait, come back here. We're not finished with this. And you say, I just fear what would happen if I really let my anger go. And it's like, well, like the Incredible Hulk? What? Because I never got to really experience that. I mean, the worst was ever that we ever had physical was, I threw a shoe through the door once and left a hole, and you threw a chair at another, and I was like the next day, like, you threw that chair at that door. Oh my gosh. So, thankfully we weren't, physically abusive with each other, but our mouths could do so much destruction,
And that's what
with
I
that
did.
anger.
Yeah.
Yes. And it's just as damaging.
Well, early in our marriage, when we didn't know how to process anger, it was frustrating because we felt anger. We go to bed mad and lay there mad, you know, and all that. And I'd give you the silent treatment. After I would verbally abuse you, then I'd give you silent treatment. When you get angry, you're going to get angry. The first thing that we do is we're going to deal with this today. It's what we talk about in the teaching. We're not going to go to bed on this anger, okay? And that is an ethic of our relationship that says we're not going to get in the habit of cold wars or, wars of just, like you said, Karen, no restraint, saying bad things to each other, doing bad things to each other. We're going to have anger, but number one, we're going to we're going to let our emotions cool down. We're going to find the right place to meet. The second thing, Karen, that's so critical is when we are resolving anger is to begin with affirmation. Is you don't begin by saying, I've got my lawyer's number on speed dial, and if you don't say the right thing, is threatening, those kind of things. You start by saying, I love you. And,
Exactly right.
I'm angry, but I love you. We're on the same team. I'm committed to our marriage, but I want to talk to you about what's bothering me. And so the harsh startup in a confrontation, the first 3 minutes of any conversation dictate the entire conversation. A conversation never rises above the level of the first 3 minutes. So if you're mad at your spouse and you start out by yelling and saying all this stuff, walk away and come back later. But you have to begin with that. And as we said in the program there, Karen, you have to give your spouse the right to complain without paying a price. And you were talking about me being a prosecutor early in our marriage. You paid a price. If you said something to me that I didn't like, you knew you were going to pay a price, so you would bottle it up as long as you could, and then when you couldn't anymore, you would explode. And we just had a dysfunctional relationship, and I know a lot of people can relate to this. We had a dysfunctional relationship where we could not process our anger.
Well, and I think that, it's always good to after the effects of the anger, and as you're going through this, to next time you get angry, stop a minute and ask yourself, why am I really angry? Because usually behind that anger, something's going on.
Oh, yeah.
I know for myself, one time I got so angry about something that was and it didn't even have anything to do with you. And it was so angry about something that I couldn't believe I was so angry about. And I was just like, Lord, why did that make me so mad? And he said, because it hurt your feelings. I'm like, oh, it did hurt my feelings, And I remember just thinking, it's so nice to know that sometimes there is legitimate anger. It's just how you use it. Yeah. And if it's righteous or unrighteous, and if your feelings have been hurt, deal with your feelings, but don't make somebody else pay the price for why your feelings are hurt. And so that's good.
We're going to keep talking about this issue of anger. We're going to take a break right now. We'll be right back, so stay tuned. For over 20 years, Marriage Today has been ministering to marriages and families all across America and all across the world in over 200 countries. And so it is our joy to be able to come to you right now and to hopefully encourage you, to minister to you, to give you some skills and tools to succeed in marriage and family. If we've been a blessing to you, would you consider giving your most generous gift to help us financially? The information is there on your screen of how you can call, or you can send in a check or a gift in the mail, or also how you can go on our secure website and give right now. Please consider giving your most generous gift, because everything we do, it happens because of generous people just like you, who've been touched by our ministry. Please give your most generous gift. And also, if you want to become a monthly partner, the information is there on your screen of how you can become a regular monthly partner of this ministry. And in so doing, you get a gift that nobody else gets. It's a special resource for our Rock Solid partners. Thank you for your giving. God bless you.
Going through divorce is a lot to ask of children and often results in years of emotional pain. It's a violent ripping apart of their parents and a sense of abandonment. What sometimes we see as a quick way out can mean complete loss for a child.
You have a 100% chance of success in marriage. You were made for marriage.
Marriage Today exists to protect children from the pain of divorce and to steer couples away from marital failure by telling them the truth. When you stand with Marriage Today, your individual effort multiplies with other like-minded partners, and together we can rebuild a legacy of strong families around the world. Choose your level of partnership today and receive immediate access to the video streaming library. Become a Rock Solid partner today.
Okay, we're talking about anger, disarming, destructive anger. And Karen, we've been talking about, kind of the process. In the teaching, I was talking about giving your spouse the right to complain. Mm-hmm. The biggest issue of all, if you're going to be able to process anger, you've got to let your spouse know if something's wrong, mm-hmm. tell me. Mm-hmm. And I won't, browbeat you. I won't yell at you. Mm-hmm. You will not pay a price because I want to know. It doesn't mean I necessarily agree. But I want to know. That's the mega issue of being able to process anger. Also saying we're not going to be in the habit of going to bed on anger. Mm-hmm. We're going to deal with anger. This is dangerous.
Exactly.
Anger is dangerous. And so it's normal, but if we let this stay in our relationship too long, it's going to be dangerous. Now, Karen, when we sit down and talk and we begin mm-hmm. by affirming each other, we don't begin by yelling at each other, mm-hmm. but we begin by affirming each other. And then we complain. Mm-hmm. Okay. Now, complaining is different than criticizing, because when we first got married, and I would came at you and mm-hmm. we were angry, I would point my finger. Mm-hmm. You did this and you did this. But complaining is about me. Mm-hmm. And when I complain, you don't feel on the defensive, because I'm not saying there's something wrong with you. I'm saying this is how I feel. Mm-hmm. You're not on the defensive. Mm-hmm. I'm able to say what I say. And I'm just saying, I don't know what you meant by that, but let me tell you how it made me feel. Mm-hmm. And it's a lot more effective.
Yeah, and let each other hear each other out. Yeah. Like, when you start the conversation, like you're saying, you want to complain about something. As the person's listening to you, as me, the person listening, I need to let you finish what you're going to say, because we have a tendency to jump in and think, I know where you're going with this, and I don't want to hear it. Right. And so, it's like, so be respectful. That, let you finish how you're saying it or how you're feeling it. And then come back, and the first thing that always should take place, and you and I, we work on this, mm-hmm. is, to say, I am so sorry that's how it made you feel, but let me give you my perspective.
Exactly.
And, so that it's a respectful conversation that's going on between two adults that just, you're just wanting to make sure that you deal with issues as they come up, because this is the biggest deal, is that we let things build up. Yes. And then we get this explosive stuff happening. And if we just talk honestly all the time, it helps. It
does. And there's so many times, Karen, that I felt mm-hmm. that you were disrespecting me. I felt mm-hmm. like you meant to do something. Mm-hmm. Then you would give me your perspective, and I realized even though I felt that way, it wasn't true. Mm-hmm. And we were then able to process our anger. And you can do this. I'm saying wherever you are in your marriage, mm-hmm. in your relationship, you're going to have anger. But if it stays in your marriage very long, it's an enemy. It's gonna attack your intimacy and your goodwill. So just make your mind up right now. You're going to become an expert in dealing with anger. You can do it. I'm sorry we're out of time. We'll see you next time. God bless you. Bye-bye.
Subscribe to Marriage Today's YouTube channel for more marriage-building videos and updates.